Hi everybody and welcome to DC Fine Art. Today I'm showing you how I constructed this piece that I will be starting. It will be a color pencil piece. And yeah, right now I am showing you basically the Frankenstein phase of what I went through. I do this while I'm over the road. I don't have Photoshop. So I tend to draw things out kind of like drafters do with designing houses and stuff. You see a lot of the drafting paper or the tracing paper, and I draw on that and then move things around or size it down by redrawing it to where I actually can get it to fit an 11 by 14 piece that I am doing. And so that is how I ended up with this design. And on the second note, the paper that I am using is going to be the Strathmore Bristol Vellum surface. And yeah, so it's 11 by 14. And here is a color chart that I created. And these are the color pencils that I'm using. I am using a variety of different ones. I'm using Derwent Lightfast, Derwent Drawing, Caran D'Ache Luminance, and the Derwent Pro. In creating this wood piece though, I didn't use every single color just to start it out. I just wanted my first base layer to kind of be, I guess you would say, more neutral. I have a little bit of my darks in there for some shadowing, but I will darken it up. But I will do that on my first or on my second layer or third layer. So this is just the very beginning. Now I'm just erasing my pencil marks so that way it's not showing through. And I'm so sorry, you guys, but whenever I'm drawing like wood or anything like that, I kind of make up most majority of it. I make up my own design. So you're looking at marks that I had put on the paper showing that it is wood, but that doesn't mean you have to go by those marks, and I don't. Like, as you can see, what I'm drawing on this piece of paper is nothing but maybe me looking at a reference photo and only taking a certain section that I like out of that reference photo, and then I'm just drawing it in right now. And then if I go on up, if I don't like what I like to see on the reference photo and I like a different section of maybe one of the boards, then I will end up looking at that and just kind of putting it in there. So I'm kind of making this up. Um, uh, it's still using a reference photo, but it's not entirely going like each and every single line is going to be based off the reference photo. And you'll see me go back and forth looking at my color sheet, but I'm starting with more of my, I guess you could say, my darker colors of my browns, which is the very bottom of it. When I worked on it, I was using a chocolate. And then I went to natural brown just as I come back up, because as you can see, there's a candle that's lit in the, I guess it would be the far right corner. I have a candle lit. So you're going to have to kind of imagine that that candle being lit, the further away you get, it's going to be darker. Or if it's more out of sight of the candle, it's going to be darker. So the base of this wood is going to be darker. As I move to the middle of the board, it's going to be a little bit lighter. So that's why I'm using from a chocolate to a natural brown as I work my way on up. But then it starts to get dark again because candlelight only lights so much. So then it tends to get darker again. So then I will go back and I will use some of maybe my chocolate on the top. So here I'm just drawing in little details, and yeah, I'm just drawing it in. You basically using that chocolate pencil. I have switched over and used the sepia, and that is all from the Derwent Lightfast ranges. And I've kind of chosen too, because you want to know this, is if you're working with a color pencil piece and you're wanting it to blend, especially with your base layers, I will pick things that are a lot more easier to blend, such as the Derwent Lightfast. The Derwent Drawing is another good one. And I think I did pick out one Caran D'Ache pencil, but that was only because I liked the color and I used it, but it still blended really, really nicely with the others. So here I am, and I'm taking a lot of the yellow ochre is going to be my lightest one. And then I go from yellow ochre to a brown ochre. And I think the Caran D'Ache one is a brown ochre 50%. There I'm layering some of my darker colors, which I'm using is a midnight black in the Derwent Lightfast, and then I go up to lighten it a little bit with the indigo, and then after that I take a chocolate, like the brown chocolate, and I'll go over the top of it so that way it kind of has that brownish look for the wood. But yeah, I make my darker lines in there first, so that way whenever I go over it with these brown ochres or these yellow ochres, kind of lightening it, I have used a raisin also, like add a little bit of a reddish tone to it. And I do that first, and then I go through and add in some of my lighter colors. Now here since this is the very start, I decided to go ahead and start blending some of it with my OMS and my brush, just to kind of see what it's looking like so far. So that way I kind of get the idea that I'm on the right track, or if I'm needing to maybe darken it up or lighten it up, I can kind of see how it's going. Now I will be doing the same thing, just like this. I will be doing this one, like this wood board here, plank, and then I'll do two more. So that way you guys can get an idea of how I started this. But there's the Derwent drawing. It's my single Derwent drawing that I used. It is the warm earth. And I use that for my darker areas, like for blending, because it blends super nice, just like butter. The dark line in between, I use the dark indigo first, and then I use the midnight black just to kind of narrow in the darker area in between the boards. But I kind of do a little patchiness whenever I go around with this, because I don't want it to be all one single color. I want the mixtures of lights and darks in there. There I am adding in some of that raisin in there along with some darker browns. And then using my OMS to blend it. Now this is what I consider, just like me, whenever I count, I know I add a lot of pencil in there so that way I can get a good blend. But I call this, using whenever I use OMS, being one layer. Now, I mean, you guess you could just leave it as one layer if you like it that way, but I definitely like to, I'm going to be adding another layer to this, which that'll have to be in the next part, or at least the part 2, is whenever I'm going back in, adding some more darks and shadows, and then kind of adding a glow to the wood for the candlelight. And here's a little close-up shot so that way you can kind of see it maybe a little bit better. But see how those darker lines, how they really do pop out. So I added my darkers of browns in for my lines on my wood. And then I go back in with my ochres and stuff like that in order to do my blending with. Now here I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to erase what I got there. Don't worry, it's not going to look anything like what I just put down. There ain't going to be any of those marks. So I'm kind of making this up. This is going to be totally different. But that's just how I go. I mean, if I change things up as I work, so everything's not going to be based off of the reference photo entirely. And the reference photo for this I did get from Pixabay, and it is in pieces. And what I'm saying that is that I had an idea in my head that I wanted to do. And it's going to be unique. So I wanted to have like a wood background. So then I looked up, just kind of getting ideas of different wood backgrounds or anything that I could use that I can put together in pieces. And then I think, okay, well, I would really like to have maybe my little hamster like coming out of a little teacup, like he's having a little tea party kind of thing. And so I just looked up different things, just trying to get ideas of maybe a really nice teacup that I could use as kind of a reference. And everything's just in pieces. It's not one whole, this is not one whole picture you just find on Bixby. You ain't gonna find this one. So this is definitely an original piece from that I'm doing. Kind of similar to my little hamster that I decided to do like a hamster's vacation little color pencil piece. I kind of wanted to do another one and wanted to have my little hamster to be different, like kind of doing a little tea party or a little celebration that he's having with some little muffins that he is really tempted to eat. But back to this color pencil piece that I'm working on. Basically, all I'm doing is putting in my lines from my dark browns and then my natural browns. I'm adding in some of that raisin and sepia in there to give it some color of redness, like a little bit more like a rich kind of reddy tone to it. Boy, if reddy tone is actually a name, I don't know. And then on this one here, I used a lot more of the darker chocolate and some of those darker spots, and then went back in with some of my midnight black in some of the areas, so it will pop out a little bit more darker on those little knots of the wood. And there I am using my midnight black for the bottom, dark indigo above it, and then the chocolate, all right, like mixed in with it. Now there I'm using my Derwent drawing doobly is called Warm Earth, and you're using that at the very edge there where it's kind of darker. I'm just kind of putting that in. And like I said, all of my shadowing and making it darker can be on the next section. Like the next time I go back over it, I will get a better idea looking at the picture in a whole. And that way I can make my adjustments from making it darker or making it lighter. So there I'm adding in some reds, some lights, just to kind of give a little bit more dimension in the wood. Adding in that dark indigo and then the midnight black on top. And there I'm adding some of that midnight black in there too, and those knots in the wood, and it's really going to pop out. So once I'm done with that, I use my OMS to go back in and kind of blend those out. Now, here's another thing too. When I'm using OMS, I'm not just going in circles, I'm kind of going back and forth, kind of with the grain of the wood. Because I don't want to go in circles, because if I do, then it's going to go against the grain. So I kind of been going back and forth, just kind of following in the direction of where the wood goes. That way, if it blends, it's going to blend together within those little seam lines. I'm not pushing down very hard. And when I'm dipping the brush into the OMS, I'm kind of dabbing it just like once on a paper towel. That way it kind of gets some of that extra off of there, because I don't want to put it up there dripping wet or anything. And on this video, basically I'm going to be showing you guys the first step. Now this is just the first step. I'm doing these 3 boards, and I will have to go back and do the rest of the boards by the time we get to our next video. That way I can show you guys the next step of layering and doing a second coat on top of it by adding in the lights and the darks to it, and for the least around the candle. Now if I can get to the candle and do that also with the video, that would be super great, because then you guys will see as part 2 being the second layer for the wood and also getting the candle in there. And see, I'm making this all up. Definitely is nothing of what I had drawn on there. I just liked that there was one piece of the wood or one section of the wood that had this in there, or at least the wood grain. So I wanted to have something similar to it. It's not identical, but it is very much similar to it. I like the wood grain. And at the bottom, I'm adding in more of my darker tones, like my chocolate. And then I'm using, as I go up, I'll use my natural brown. And then I'll get to the very top, I'll start using my chocolate again. Now, I am going to throw in some raisin in there to give some of these edges around the wood some reddish tones. Just making up some of those dots, some of those little creases. And like I said, it'll just be a repeat of me doing the same kind of thing all the way throughout. Definitely took me a long time to try and think of what I was going to be doing this week. I know I wanted to have lots of detail in there, and I also wanted to kind of create an original piece. So by doing so, it took me a long time to draft that out, get my ideas straight, kind of size it to the way I want it, and yeah, took me a lot longer to do that. So I could only do just a little bit this week, but next week we should be able to get more of the wood, second layer, and hopefully possibly get the candle. We will see though. So here I am with my Derwent drawing, Warm Earth, starting at the bottom, then using that brown ochre and yellow ochre will be in the center for the lighter areas. And you don't have to use just the colors that I'm using neither. You can choose whatever you want on the browns or reds, or you can choose just about anything. These colors I just picked out just because I wanted my wood to have this kind of colors to it. I was looking for certain colors, and it just something that came to me that I wanted. I do my color chart just so that way I can see the variety of different colors that I have, and that way I can kind of pick and choose from those. It really does help me out, so just the extra little effort that I put into it is all. So there I am with the OMS, just kind of blending those out. I do kind of go around that teacup very, very gently, not to go into my little hamster of the teacup. Blending out all my little colors, which is like my favorite part. It all comes to life whenever you do this. Absolutely love it. And see how I'm kind of going with the grain of the wood. And also, I just wanted to put out another reminder out there. I am on my travels, so at work, so I am unable to actually get a hold of my palletful pack box. It's been delivered at the house. So just to let you guys know, for an FYI, we will be late on the palletful pack. I will be able to get that out, my review out, but it won't be until probably Thanksgiving weekend, or at least during Thanksgiving week. So I will have that out to you guys late, but that is the reason why it will be late. This here is the final picture with the wood grain done only on the first layer. We will be doing the second layer of the lights and darks and more shadowing, and possibly get to the candle. I'm not for sure on that, but I'm hoping that I can get to the candle. But if you guys are new here, please click the like and subscribe. That totally helps me so much. And if you guys have been with me the whole time, I just want to say hi, you guys. Thanks for watching. And definitely click the like on this. It helps me grow. It helps the channel grow. And yeah, I'll see you all next Thursday. Bye, you guys.